All right, first of all, why don't you just tell me how you came up with the title Renewable Energy, Facts and Fantasies?
Well, it happened as a result of the interviews I actually conducted. I didn't have the book titled until the very end. When I realized that we really did face tough realities, that this is not like snapping our fingers. This is something that we need to do, yes, but there are challenges, both technologic and economic and political. And when I realized the challenges, I go, you know what? There are facts about this thing, but there are fantasies as well. And a fantasy would be that we can have this thing instantly and that we can make these challenges disappear magically.
And what's behind offering the electronic copy of the book at no charge, then? Why did you decide to do that?
Well, simply because I'm just ready to publish my next book. And I figure this one, I'd like to just get this in as many people's hands as possible. The more people who understand this stuff, the more people can have an informed, relevant conversation on the subject. I think we're in a good position. This is, in my estimation, this is not a nice to have. This is something, the migration away from burning hydrocarbons is a vitally important step we're taking as a civilization. And the more people who understand that, the more people can affect the process and actually bring this about.
Yeah, you talk about the migration to clean energy being among the most pressing issues of our time.
Right. I honestly believe that.
All right. Talk a little bit about our addiction to oil and coal.
Well, I think it's simply a matter of fact that 40% of our energy goes into transportation, and 98% of that energy is oil. So we borrow $1 billion a day and send that wealth to regimes in foreign countries that are normally, pardon me, that are mostly antagonistic to the United States. So, in other words, we're empowering people who want to kill us. This makes no sense. So that's one of many reasons that we need to put a spear through our addiction to oil, and thus the imperative for electric transportation.
And you talk about how there are no simple solutions. Is that right?
Well, I wouldn't. Yes, exactly. In other words, for instance, I just referred to electric transportation. Well, that's fine, but what about battery energy density? What about the cost of lithium ion? It's coming down, and the energy density is improving, but still we have. What's the proposition for the consumer here? Well, he's going to have to pay a little bit more for a car that's a little less convenient. So that's the challenge.
And what do you say to people who say that renewable energy is too expensive?
Well, that's the point. It is a little expensive. So, for instance, the cost of wind is falling. It's near the point of grid parity. It's almost to the point where an incremental megawatt of electricity is going to be the precise same cost if it comes from wind as if it comes from coal. But we're not there yet. So if we really, unless we have some public appetite for paying a little bit more for something that's clean and is not killing us, then we have a problem. In other words, if we really want the absolute least cost electricity in the United States, it does come from the dirtiest form of coal. So we, as a nation, need to make some tough decisions.
You know, what are your thoughts about the current presidential campaign? Then you have some candidates who are talking about increasing drilling and reducing regulations and that sort of thing. Where do you come down on that?
Well, the American political process is nauseating to me and almost anybody else who really looks at it. In essence, you have political posturing that means that all serious candidates either move immediately to the left and say we have to get rid of this horrible oil and coal this afternoon, which is, of course, impossible, or they move immediately to the right and they say, you know, drill, baby, drill. There's nothing the matter with us. We have plenty of oil. Let's just get government off our backs. Let's get rid of all the regulation. And that is even worse. So where is the voice of centrist reason in all this? It seems to be absent. So that's why this process is so nauseating to me.
Now, you also talk about how some people still are not accepting the fact, or are not accepting, don't believe in global warming, but you go on to say that they still have to believe in some other things that are being caused by fossil fuels.
Right. Yeah, so generally, I mean, I believe in global warming simply because I've interviewed all these climate scientists. So in other words, I'm a person whose mind works in a certain peculiar way, and that is I find it impossible to take a belief in something that's counter to the vast majority of scientists. So, for instance, I believe in the theory of evolution simply because that's a kind of paradigm for biologists, and I similarly believe in climate change. Having said that, I understand they're climate change deniers, but I don't know that there's anybody who doesn't believe in terrorism or doesn't believe in the effect of a huge crushing national debt or doesn't believe in lung cancer. So, in other words, there are people. Last year, there were 13,000 people who died specifically from breathing the aromatics of coal. So, we do have, and we spent $250 billion last year in dealing with asthma and lung cancer and other lung diseases directly as a result of this. So, in other words, it's fine that you don't believe in global warming. Just pick one of the other 6 or 7 good, solid reasons to get on board with respect to the migration from fossil fuels to clean energy.
Tell me a little bit about Two Green Energy, then, your company.
Right. So the website, 2 Green Energy, the number 2 greenenergy.com, is a website that some friends of mine and I put together a couple of years ago. We try to have an enormous amount of current relevant content associated with this whole issue, and we try to be level-headed about it. In other words, we try to say just the precise same tenor as I just articulated about global climate change. In other words, we're respectful of the fact that not everybody believes all of this. We just want enough content there that more and more people can participate in this and come to have meaningful, well-informed conversations on the subject so that they're able to discuss this intelligently with their elected leaders and say, look, we do have a problem here. This is not, it's true that Americans have a very kind of short-term focus. We're concerned about our economic situation. We're concerned about our job, et cetera. But it's also true that Americans have a good appetite for learning and understanding and involvement in the political process where they feel they can make a difference. And here's a case where people really honestly can make a difference. The more they know about this, the more they can communicate to their elected leaders and say, look, this is what we need. This is what I want you to do for me.
Are you optimistic then?
Well, it's an excellent question, George. I wake up every morning not really knowing what I'm going to find when I check my email. Whether it's going to be another Fukushima that has unbelievable level of disaster, but untold power to change the viewpoint of the common American. Henry Kissinger said not too long ago that if it weren't for the opposition that the common American had for the war in Vietnam, we'd still be there. Now, that's an amazing thing to say, don't you think?
Yeah.
So in other words, this is, to the degree I'm optimistic, is the degree to which I believe that the common American can wake up and say, you know what, we need to do this. Let's get it done.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's about the size of it. The book, as you mentioned, the book is available for free. If you go to 2greenenergy.com/radio, your listeners can download a free electronic copy. And obviously, if they want a printed copy, it's on Amazon and, it's in Borders and Barnes & Noble and so forth.
And what's your next book about then?
Well, it's a deeper dive into the economics and politics. It gets at why don't we have this? If it's such a good idea, what's the real challenge associated with doing this?
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for your time this morning.
Well, very good. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Okay, no problem.
All right,
Thank you.
You bet.